Congratulations, Mrs. Park. You're pregnant.
What do you mean I'm pregnant?
Your test results are positive.
I can't be pregnant.
You are.
Could the father be my husband or my lover?
The words hung in the sterile air of the hospital examination room like a verdict, like a sentence, like the end of one life and the terrifying beginning of another. Camille sat on the crinkly paper, covering the examination table, hands gripping the edge so tightly her knuckles had gone pale against her dark brown skin. The doctor, a kind-faced woman in her 50s with reading glasses perched on her nose, was smiling. Actually smiling. Like this was good news. Like Camille's world hadn't just tilted off its axis and sent everything sliding into chaos. Based on your hormone levels and the date of your last menstrual period, I'd estimate you're approximately 6 to 8 weeks along. The doctor was writing something on a chart, still talking, still using that gentle, encouraging voice. We'll schedule you for an ultrasound in a few weeks to confirm the due date more precisely. But for now, how precise can you be? Camille heard herself interrupt, her voice coming from somewhere far away. About the conception date, how precisely can you tell me when I conceived? The doctor looked up, reading something in Camille's face that made her expression shift from cheerful to professional concern. Well, conception typically occurs within 24 hours of ovulation, which is approximately 2 weeks before a missed period. So if we're saying you're 6 to 8 weeks pregnant now, that means conception likely occurred 6 to 8 weeks ago, give or take a few days. She paused. Is there a reason you need to know the exact date? Yes, because 6 weeks ago, she was still occasionally sleeping with her husband. Once, maybe twice that month when he deigned to touch her. And 6 weeks ago, she was also already involved with Jae-sung. Their affair well underway. Their connection deepening with every stolen moment. 6 to 8 weeks meant it could be either man's baby. No reason, Camille lied. The words, tasting like copper in her mouth. I like to be precise about things. The doctor didn't look convinced, but didn't push. Instead, she handed Camille several pamphlets about prenatal care, a prescription for prenatal vitamins, and a cheerful pink folder embossed with a stork carrying a bundle. The first trimester can be challenging, the doctor was saying, her voice fading in and out like a radio with bad reception. Morning sickness, fatigue, mood swings, all completely normal. Make sure you're taking the vitamins, staying hydrated, avoiding alcohol and caffeine. Camille nodded mechanically, taking the papers, the prescription, the folder, with its offensively cheerful stork. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs to still them. Pregnant. She was pregnant. With a baby that was either her abusive husband's or her married lover's. A baby conceived in either desperation or hope, in either submission or freedom, in either a dying marriage or a secret affair that might destroy everyone it touched. Mrs. Park, are you all right? Camille looked up, realized the doctor was watching her with open concern now. I'm fine. The automatic lie, the reflexive reassurance. She'd gotten so good at those over 3 years of marriage. Just processing. Of course, it's a lot to take in. The doctor's smile was sympathetic. Do you have support at home? Your partner will be so happy. A partner. Camille almost laughed. Which partner? The husband who controlled every aspect of her life and was probably already planning how to use this pregnancy to trap her forever? Or the lover who didn't even know yet that his niece was dating said husband? I have support, Camille said, standing up on legs that felt like water. Thank you, doctor. She left before any more questions could be asked, before the kindness in the doctor's eyes could crack her open completely. The hospital corridor was too bright, too loud, too full of people, going about normal lives, while Camille's entire existence had just been rewritten in the span of 20 minutes. She found a quiet corner near the elevators and pulled out her phone with trembling hands. 15 missed calls from Ji-hoon. 8 voicemails. 12 text messages, escalating from, "Where are you?" to "Call me now," to "You're going to regret this." She deleted them all without reading or listening. She couldn't deal with him right now. Couldn't hear his voice. Couldn't stomach his threats. Couldn't face what this pregnancy would mean once he found out. Instead, she scrolled to Minji's number. Pressed call. Hello? I'm pregnant. Silence on the other end. Then, oh, Camille. Just that. Just her name, said with such compassion and understanding that Camille had to press her hand over her mouth to keep from sobbing in the middle of the hospital hallway. Confirmed? Minji asked quietly. Just came from the doctor. 6 to 8 weeks? Camille's voice was barely a whisper. It could be either of them, Minji. I don't know. I can't know for sure until... She couldn't finish the sentence. Where are you right now? Still at the hospital. I need to sit down. Process this. Come over. Right now. Don't go home. I can't. I have something I need to do first. Camille looked down at the pink folder in her hands, at the pamphlets about fetal development and prenatal nutrition. I'll come by later. I promise. Camille. I'm okay. I need some time. I'll call you later. She hung up before Minji could argue, before the concern in her friend's voice could break down the fragile control she was maintaining. The elevator dinged. Camille stepped in, pressed the button for the ground floor, and watched the doors close on the OBGYN wing, where her entire future had just been rewritten. The cafe near the hospital was quiet at this hour, mid-morning on a Tuesday, too late for the breakfast rush, too early for lunch. Camille sat in a corner booth with an untouched cup of herbal tea cooling in front of her, the pink folder open on the table, pamphlets spread out like tarot cards, predicting her future. What to expect in your first trimester. Prenatal nutrition guide. Your baby's development, weeks 1 to 12. She stared at the last one, a cheerful illustration showing the progression from poppy seed to lime to plum. At 6 weeks, the pamphlet informed her brightly, her baby was the size of a sweet pea, had a heartbeat, had tiny limb buds that would become arms and legs. A sweet pea. Inside her body right now, a sweet pea-sized life was growing. Cells dividing, heart beating, future unfolding. And she had no idea whose DNA was writing that future. Camille's hand moved unconsciously to her still flat stomach, through the fabric of her shirt, through skin and muscle, to where a tiny cluster of cells was becoming a person. Her baby, but also potentially Ji-hoon's baby, or Jae-sung's baby. The mathematics were cruel and precise. Ji-hoon had touched her exactly twice in the past 2 months. Once about 7 weeks ago, when he'd come home drunk and wanting. Once about 5 weeks ago, when he'd been in an unusually good mood after a successful work presentation. Both times had been mechanical, emotionless. Her lying there thinking of other things while he used her body and then rolled over to sleep. Jae-sung, on the other hand. They'd been together frequently over the past 2 months, multiple times a week. With passion, with tenderness, with a kind of desperate need that came from finally finding someone who saw you as human. Statistically, mathematically, the baby was probably Jae-sung's, but probably wasn't certainty. Probably wouldn't hold up if Ji-hoon demanded a paternity test. Probably wouldn't protect her if he decided to fight for custody or use the pregnancy to trap her forever in this marriage. And probably wouldn't make telling Jae-sung any easier when she had to admit she couldn't be completely sure the baby was his. Camille's phone buzzed. She looked down. Ji-hoon? Where the fuck are you? Ji-hoon? I know you're seeing your messages. Ji-hoon? You better call me back right now. She blocked his number. The messages stopped. For a moment, she just sat in the quiet cafe, hand on her stomach, breathing slowly. In and out, in and out. She'd spent 3 years letting Ji-hoon make her feel small, worthless, incapable. 3 years of his voice in her head, telling her she was nothing without him, that she couldn't survive on her own, that she was too stupid, too useless, too foreign to make it in Korea or anywhere else. But that voice was a lie. She'd survived her whole life before meeting him. She'd gotten a college degree. She'd moved across the world. She'd built a life in a foreign country where she didn't speak the language fluently, and she'd found Jae-sung, found someone who saw her strength instead of manufacturing her weakness. She could do this. She could survive this. She had to. Because now it wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the sweet pea. Camille gathered up the pamphlets, tucked them back into the cheerful pink folder, and stood up with new resolve hardening in her chest. She needed to figure out her next move, and she needed to do it quickly before Ji-hoon found her. But the question in her head still remained. Who was the father of her baby? Her husband or her lover? New to this series? The full story link is in the description. Trust me, you need the backstory to feel the full weight of this moment. Camille just discovered she's pregnant, but she doesn't know if it's her husband's baby or her lover's. That's not just a problem. That's a crisis that could destroy everyone involved. Who do you think is the father of her baby? Drop your comment below. Have you ever been in a situation where you literally had no good options? Where every choice led to pain, and all you could do was pick which pain you could live with? Comment yes or no. And hey, what time did you get to see this? Drop your location below. I love seeing where my Soul Afro fam is tuning in from. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on your notification bell if you're here for more stories like this. Let's continue. Wednesday morning arrived gray and cold, the kind of autumn day that promised rain. Camille had barely slept, one hand on her stomach all night, the other clutching her phone. She'd stayed at Min-ji's apartment Tuesday night, too afraid to go home, too exhausted to do anything but cry and process the impossible situation she was in. But she couldn't hide forever. She had to go back eventually, get clothes, figure out what to do next. Min-ji drove her home, Wednesday morning, pulled up outside the apartment building. Do you want me to come up with you? Min-ji asked. No, I'll be fine. Ji-hoon should be at work by now. Camille gathered her purse, the pink pregnancy folder hidden inside. I'll just grab some things and go. Call me if you need anything at all. I will. Thank you. Camille rode the elevator up to the apartment, key already in hand, heart hammering despite telling herself Ji-hoon would be gone. She unlocked the door, stepped inside quietly. The apartment was silent. Relief flooded through her. He was already gone. There you are. Camille's blood went cold. Ji-hoon emerged from the bedroom, still in pajama pants and a t-shirt, clearly not having left for work yet. His expression was cold, calculating. Where have you been? Out, with Min-ji. Camille stayed near the door, ready to leave if she needed to. For 2 days? Without telling me? He stepped closer. Without answering any of my calls? I needed space. Ji-hoon laughed, dark and humorless. You needed space. How convenient. He walked past her to the kitchen, poured himself coffee even though it was almost noon. Well, your little vacation is over. I need you to play your role. What role? Obedient housewife. He took a sip of coffee, watching her over the rim of the cup. I have a very important business dinner Friday night. Major potential donor for my campaign. This could set the foundation for everything. The funding, the connections, the pathway to city council and beyond. Camille said nothing. Just watched him with the careful blankness she'd perfected over 3 years of marriage. All you need to do is stay out of my way and look pretty when I bring people around. Ji-hoon set down the coffee cup. Think you can manage that? Or is even that too much to ask? The mockery in his voice was familiar. The casual cruelty. The way he made her feel small with just a few words. Few weeks back, it would have worked. She would have apologized, made herself smaller, tried to please him. But she didn't say anything. He walked back to the bedroom to get dressed, leaving Camille standing in the living room, hand unconsciously moving to her stomach. She waited until she heard the bedroom door close, then quickly moved to the guest room, grabbed her laptop, some clothes, important documents, packed them into a bag as quietly as possible. By the time Ji-hoon emerged, now dressed in expensive slacks and a button-down shirt, looking every inch the ambitious politician, Camille was sitting on the couch pretending to read a book. I'll be out most of the day, he said, checking his appearance in the hallway mirror. Don't wait up. He left without saying goodbye, without asking how she was, without noticing the slight swell of tears in her eyes or the way her hand kept moving to her stomach. The door closed. Camille sat in the silent apartment for a long moment, then reached for her phone. She needed to hear Jae-sung's voice, needed to feel connected to something good and real and safe. She dialed his number. He answered on the second ring. Camille. Just her name, but the warmth in his voice made her throat tight. Hi. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. Are you free? I was wondering if maybe we could have dinner tonight. Somewhere outside? There was a pause. I wish I could. I'm having dinner with my niece tonight. It's very important to her. She really needs this family time with me. Of course, he had family obligations, a life outside of their stolen moments. Oh, that's okay. I understand. Would you want to come over instead? Jae-sung's voice was gentle. I'd love for you to meet her someday. She's important to me. Meet his niece? When Camille was pregnant and didn't know whose baby she was carrying? When everything was falling apart? No, I don't want to disturb your family moment. Camille forced herself to sound normal. Spend time with her. She needs you. Are you sure? You sound sad. I'm fine. Really. Enjoy your dinner. I love you. She hung up before he could respond, before the emotion in her voice could betray how very not fine she was. For a long moment, Camille just sat there staring at her phone. Jae-sung was having dinner with his niece tonight. Family time. Normal, healthy family time. And she was sitting alone in an apartment that felt like a prison, pregnant with a baby that might belong to her abuser of a husband, with no idea how to untangle the mess her life had become. Her phone was still in her hand. She wanted to call him back, tell him everything, beg him to come get her, but she couldn't. Not yet. Not until she figured out what to do about the pregnancy, about Ji-hoon, about everything. Camille lay down on the couch, pulled a throw blanket over herself, and closed her eyes. Just for a little while. Just until she could think clearly again. Within minutes, exhaustion pulled her under into fitful sleep, one hand still resting on her stomach where the sweet pea was growing. Wednesday evening, Jae-sung's penthouse was immaculate, as always. Modern minimalist design with clean lines, expensive furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Seoul's glittering skyline. But tonight, it felt different, warmer, because Yuna was here. She'd been fluttering around for the past hour, helping him set the table, arrange the food he'd ordered from one of Seoul's finest restaurants, making sure everything was perfect for her boyfriend's arrival. Uncle, is this right? Yuna adjusted the placement of chopsticks for the third time, her delicate features scrunched in concentration. Should the soup spoons be on this side or the other? Jae-sung watched his niece with fond exasperation. He'd raised her from the time she was 15, after his brother, her father, had died, watched her grow from a grieving teenager into this beautiful, hopeful young woman who still believed the best of people. Sometimes that optimism worried him. The world wasn't kind to people who believed too easily. It's perfect, Yuna. Stop fussing. She smiled at him, that bright smile that reminded him so much of her father. I just want tonight to go well. I really want you to like him, Uncle. I know. Jae-sung poured them both tea, gestured for her to sit down. Tell me about him. Really tell me, not just the surface things. Yuna's whole face lit up. He's amazing, smart, ambitious, caring. He wants to make a real difference in this city through politics. He has all these ideas about improving social programs, helping working families. Uh-huh. Jae-sung listened, but what he heard beneath her words worried him. She was in love. Deeply. The kind of love that made people blind to red flags. He's just waiting until his divorce is final before we can really be together publicly. It must be so hard for him, being stuck in that marriage. How long has he been finalizing this divorce? A few months. But these things take time, right? Especially when the other person is being difficult. Warning bells. Jae-sung had heard this story before. Married men who were almost divorced, but never quite seemed to finalize it. Have you met his wife? No, he says she's very bitter about the divorce. I don't want to make things worse for him. More warning bells. Yuna, I'm just going to ask you directly. Are you absolutely certain this man is who he says he is? Her smile faltered slightly. What do you mean? I mean, have you verified that he's actually getting divorced? Seen legal papers? Met his lawyer? Uncle, why are you being like this? Yuna's voice took on a defensive edge. You haven't even met him yet. Give him a chance before you judge him. I'm not judging. I'm being careful. Because I love you, and I don't want you to get hurt. I know, but Ji-hoon isn't like that. He's good. You'll see. Before Jae-sung could respond, his phone buzzed. Camille. His chest tightened. She'd sounded so off earlier when they talked. Stressed, sad. Like she was carrying weight she couldn't quite voice. But the call had already gone to voicemail. He tried calling back. It rang twice, then went to voicemail again. He tried once more. Same thing. Something was wrong. He could feel it. Uncle, is everything okay? Yuna was watching him with concern. Fine, just... He looked at his niece, then at his phone. I need to step out for a minute. Someone I need to check on. But Ji-hoon will be here any minute. Jae-sung stood up, grabbing his keys. Something was wrong with Camille. He could feel it in his bones. And whatever was happening with Yuna's boyfriend could wait. Then the doorbell rang. Yuna jumped up, face lighting up with excitement. That's him! She rushed to the door before Jae-sung could stop her. He stood in the living room, keys still in hand, torn between the woman he loved, who clearly needed him, and the niece he'd raised who was looking at him with such hopeful eyes. The right thing to do was stay. Meet this boyfriend. Be present for Yuna. But every instinct screamed to go to Camille. Yuna opened the door wide. You made it. Her voice was bright, delighted. Of course, baby. Sorry I'm a little late. A male voice, smooth and confident. Traffic was terrible. Jae-sung watched as Yuna practically threw herself into the arms of a tall Korean man in an expensive navy suit holding a bouquet of flowers. The man stepped fully into the penthouse, and Jae-sung got his first good look at him. Early 30s. Sharp, angular features. Slicked back black hair. Handsome in that calculated way. Expensive suit that screamed ambition. And eyes that were cold despite the warm smile he wore like a mask. Every instinct Jae-sung had immediately screamed, danger! Uncle! Yuna was beaming, pulling the man further inside. This is him. This is Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon, this is my uncle, Kwon Jae-sung. Ji-hoon stepped forward, extending his hand with practiced ease. Mr. Kwon, it's an honor to finally meet you. Yuna's told me so much about you. Jae-sung shook his hand automatically. The grip was firm but performative. Everything about this man felt calculated, rehearsed. Please, call me Jae-sung. He gestured toward the dining area, putting his keys down. He couldn't leave now without explanation. Come in. Sit. They settled at the dining table. Jae-sung at the head, Yuna to his right, practically glowing with happiness. Ji-hoon beside her, looking perfectly at ease. The food was beautifully arranged. Kalbi, japchae, various banchan, expensive wine breathing on the sideboard. Everything Yuna had carefully prepared. This looks amazing, Ji-hoon said, smiling at Yuna. You have excellent taste. Yuna beamed. Started serving him, making sure he had everything he needed, playing perfect hostess. And Jae-sung watched. Every movement, every word, every micro-expression. This man was wrong. Everything about him set off alarm bells. So Ji-hoon, Jae-sung said, picking up his chopsticks with deliberate calm. Tell me about yourself. What do you do? I'm in politics. Ji-hoon's smile was confident, practiced. Running for city council in the upcoming election, I'm building a platform focused on economic development and social programs for working families. Ambitious. Jae-sung took a bite of kalbi, chewed slowly. City council races are quite competitive. They are, which is why I'm starting to build the right connections now. Ji-hoon leaned back slightly, completely comfortable. The right partnerships can make all the difference in a successful campaign. Interesting choice of words. Partnerships, not supporters. And what kind of partnerships are you looking for? The kind that benefit everyone involved. Ji-hoon took a sip of wine. I believe in mutual success. You help me, I help you. That's how the world really works, isn't it? That's one philosophy. Jae-sung set down his chopsticks. Yoona mentioned you're going through a divorce. The question landed like a stone in still water. Yoona's smile flickered. Ji-hoon's expression remained smooth, but something shifted in his eyes. Yes, unfortunately, my wife and I have been separated for several months now. The marriage has been over for quite some time. But you're still legally married? Only on paper. The divorce should be finalized very soon. My lawyer is handling all the paperwork. Ji-hoon reached over, took Yoona's hand. It's just a formality at this point. The marriage was dead long before the paperwork started. I see. Jae-sung watched the way Ji-hoon held Yoona's hand, possessive rather than affectionate. What's your wife's name? Ji-hoon's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Does it matter? Korean? Jae-sung heard himself ask, his voice coming from somewhere far away. African. We've been married 3 years. But like I said, it's been over for a long time. Ji-hoon's eyes were watching him carefully now. Why do you ask? Just curious. Jae-sung forced himself to pick up his wine glass. Take a sip. Tell me more about your campaign, Jae-sung said, forcing his voice to remain steady. What specific policies are you focused on? The conversation shifted. Ji-hoon launched into his political platform with practiced ease, economic development, social programs, community investment. All the right words in all the right order. But Jae-sung barely heard him. His mind was stuck on Camille if she was fine. Uncle? Yoona was looking at him with concern. You haven't eaten much. Is the food okay? It's perfect. He forced a smile. Just thinking about work. Sorry. Continue, Ji-hoon. You were saying about the social programs? As Ji-hoon talked, Yoona listened with adoring attention, and Jae-sung watched this performance with growing certainty. After they'd eaten, after the wine had been poured, and the conversation had turned to lighter topics, Ji-hoon leaned forward with that calculated smile. Jae-sung, I know Yoona's told you I'm looking for supporters for my campaign. I'd like to talk to you about that, if you're open to it. I'm listening. Your business, import-export, correct? Yes? That must require careful navigation, international regulations, customs procedures, permits, a lot of bureaucratic complexity. The implication was clear. Ji-hoon knew or suspected that Jae-sung's business wasn't entirely legal. I have good lawyers, Jae-sung said mildly. I'm sure you do, but even the best lawyers can't navigate everything. Ji-hoon's smile widened slightly. Some things require political relationships, friends in the right positions who can make sure regulations are interpreted favorably. There it was, the real pitch. Are you suggesting you'd use political office to provide preferential treatment to campaign donors? I'm suggesting that people who help me succeed will find I remember my friends. Ji-hoon leaned back, completely comfortable with what he was proposing. Politics is about relationships, Jae-sung. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Everyone wins. Corruption. Open, blatant corruption. And he was saying it with Yoona sitting right there, believing her boyfriend was a crusader for working families. Jae-sung wanted to throw him out, wanted to tell Yoona this man was using her, lying to her, manipulating her to get access to her uncle's money and connections. But he couldn't. Not without proof? Not without breaking her heart based solely on instinct? That's an interesting proposition, Jae-sung said carefully. I'll need to think about it. Of course. Take your time. Ji-hoon's smile was knowing. But not too much time. The campaign season starts soon, and early supporters tend to get the best considerations. The meal continued. They talked about Yoona's work, about Seoul's changing political landscape, about everything except the elephant in the room. That Ji-hoon was openly offering political corruption in exchange for campaign funding. Yoona, sweet and trusting, didn't seem to understand the subtext. In her mind, her uncle and boyfriend were bonding. Jae-sung played along, keeping his expression neutral, asking appropriate questions. But inside, rage was building. This man, this corrupt, calculating, manipulative man, was dating his niece. And if Jae-sung's suspicions were correct, there's more to him. I should get going, Ji-hoon said, around 10 p.m., checking his expensive watch. Early morning tomorrow. Lots of campaign prep. Of course. Jae-sung stood, shook his hand again. That same performative grip. Yoona walked Ji-hoon to the door, kissed him goodbye with obvious affection. Thank you for giving him a chance, uncle, she said after Ji-hoon left. I know you're protective, but he's really wonderful. You'll see. I'm sure, Jae-sung managed. After Yoona left a short while later, Jae-sung stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, looking outside as he pulled out his phone. He called Camille, straight to voicemail. He tried again. Same thing. Camille woke up on the couch in the dark apartment, disoriented and groggy. She'd fallen asleep hours ago and hadn't meant to. Her phone was buzzing. She reached for it, squinting at the bright screen in the darkness. 3 missed calls from Jae-sung. Several texts. Camille's stomach lurched. She barely made it to the bathroom before vomiting. Morning sickness, or stress, or both. When the nausea passed, she sat on the bathroom floor, back against the cool tile, trying to steady her breathing. She needed to figure out her next steps, and she needed to do it quickly. But right now, she was too exhausted, too overwhelmed, too confused. She pulled herself up, brushed her teeth, and looked at her reflection in the mirror. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair a mess. Still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. But her eyes were clear. Determined. Tomorrow. She'd deal with everything. Tomorrow. For tonight, she just needed to survive. Camille checked the time. Almost midnight. She needed to sleep. Needed rest for the sweet pea. But first, she needed to be absolutely certain about the pregnancy. The hospital had confirmed it, but she needed the tangible proof. Needed to see those 2 lines for herself. She couldn't sleep anyway. Not with all this anxiety churning in her stomach. Camille grabbed her coat and purse, slipped quietly out of the apartment, and walked to the 24-hour pharmacy 3 blocks away. The pharmacy was bright and sterile, harsh fluorescent lights making her squint after the darkness outside. She walked to aisle 4 where the pregnancy tests were kept. Grabbed 3 different brands, wanting to be absolutely certain, wanting that visual confirmation her racing mind needed. The clerk bagged them without comment, used to late-night pregnancy test purchases. Camille walked back to the apartment, clutching the bag like it contained something precious and terrible all at once. Back home, she locked herself in the bathroom, unwrapped the first test, read the instructions, even though she already knew what to do, took the test, set it on the counter, set a timer for 3 minutes. Those 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. When the timer beeped, she looked. 2 pink lines. Positive. Her hands were shaking as she opened the second test. Different brand, different format. Took it, waited. Positive. The third test. Positive. All 3 tests lined up on the bathroom counter, all showing the same answer. Pregnant. Definitely. Certainly. Undeniably pregnant. Camille wrapped them carefully in tissue paper, hid them in the very back of the guest room closet behind boxes of old winter clothes. Evidence. Proof. Reality. Then she went to the kitchen, made herself a cup of hot milk like Minji had suggested, and stood at the window looking out at Seoul's sleeping cityscape. Somewhere out there, Jae-sung was probably awake too, worried about her. Somewhere out there, Ji-hoon was probably sleeping soundly, unaware that his entire world was about to change. And here, in this quiet kitchen, Camille stood with a hand on her stomach and tried to imagine a future where any of this could work out. She couldn't see it yet, but she had to try, for the sweet pea. The apartment door opened. Camille's heart stopped. Ji-hoon was home. She set down the milk, turned to face him. He walked in, looking energized, almost happy. still in his nice clothes from the dinner. "You're still up," he said, loosening his tie. "Couldn't sleep." He went to the whiskey cabinet, poured himself a glass. "Well, I'm glad you're awake. I have good news." Camille said nothing, just watched him. Tonight went perfectly. Jihoon took a sip, smiled with satisfaction. "I think I'm going to win this campaign, Camille. That man has exactly the kind of money and connections I need. And he's clearly involved in some shady import-export business that needs political cover." Camille was really uninterested. "Everything is falling into place." He drained the glass, set it down. "I'm going to bed. Don't stay up too late." He walked to the bedroom without another word. The bedroom door closed. Camille stood there as she grabbed her phone, turned it back on just long enough to send one text to Jae-sung, but she didn't. Then she turned the phone off again, crawled into the guest bed fully clothed, and tried to breathe through the panic. Tomorrow. She'd figure out what to do tomorrow. Tonight, she just needed to survive until morning. Jihoon was in his home office, reviewing notes about potential donors when the doorbell rang. He frowned, checking his watch. He wasn't expecting anyone. Probably a delivery, or one of those annoying door-to-door salespeople. The doorbell rang again. Insistent. Annoyed, Jihoon got up and walked to the door. Two people stood there, a man and a woman in business attire, professional and serious. Each held a leather folder. "Park Jihoon?" the woman asked. "Yes. We're from Min and Associates law firm." She pulled out an envelope from her folder. "We're here to serve you divorce papers on behalf of your wife, Park Camille." The world stopped. Time seemed to slow down as Jihoon stared at the envelope being held out to him, his brain refusing to process what he was hearing. "What?" "You've been officially served, Mr. Park." The man pulled out a second document. "This is your copy of the divorce petition. Court date and all relevant details are included. You have 30 days to respond through your own legal counsel." "This is a mistake." Jihoon's voice sounded strange to his own ears. "My wife wouldn't..." "The petition was filed yesterday at 3:15 p.m. by Attorney Min on behalf of Mrs. Park." The woman's voice was professionally neutral. "As of this moment, you have been legally served." She placed the envelope in his hands. Jihoon stood there holding it, staring at the official legal document with the court seal, unable to make his brain work. "If you have questions, you can contact the firm directly. Contact information is on the first page." The woman nodded politely. "Have a good day, Mr. Park." They left. Just walked away down the hallway like they hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of his perfectly planned life. Jihoon stood in the doorway, papers in hand, his mind blank with shock. Then he walked back inside on autopilot, closed the door, stood in the living room, opened the envelope with hands that had started to shake. Petition for divorce. Petitioner, Park Camille. Respondent, Park Jihoon. Grounds for divorce. Irreconcilable differences. Emotional and psychological abuse. Financial control and economic abuse. Spousal coercion. Petitioner. Requests. Dissolution of marriage. Equitable division of marital assets. Temporary spousal support during proceedings. Full legal separation, effective immediately. Court date. January 28th, 2026, 10 a.m., Seoul Family Court, District 4. Jihoon read through the petition once, twice, 3 times. Each time, the words seemed more impossible. Abuse? She was accusing him of abuse? Financial control? He'd provided for her, given her everything. Division of assets? She wanted half of what he had earned? The shock began to crystallize into something else. Something colder, harder. Rage. Pure incandescent rage. She actually did it. That bitch actually filed for divorce. After 3 years of him tolerating her uselessness, her inability to speak Korean properly, her failure to give him children, her complete dependency on him for everything. And this was how she repaid him? By filing false abuse allegations? By trying to ruin his reputation right when his political career was taking off? Jihoon walked to his office, sat down at his desk, and started making calls. His hands were steady now, his voice calm. The shock had burned away into cold calculation. Attorney Park, this is Park Ji-hoon. I need your services immediately. My wife just served me with divorce papers, and I need the most aggressive representation available. He listened to the lawyer's questions, answered them with careful precision. Yes, she's African. Here on a spousal visa. I'm the sponsor. Yes, I have reason to believe she's been having an affair. I want full documentation. I want her buried in court. I want her to get nothing, and I want her deported. Second call, private investigator. I need photographic evidence of my wife with another man. Start following her immediately. I don't care what it costs. Third call, his contact at immigration services. Hypothetically, if a spousal visa holder files for divorce and the sponsor withdraws support, what's the timeline for deportation proceedings? The answer, immediate processing. She'd have 30 days to leave the country once he withdrew. Sponsorship. Perfect. Fourth call, his political consultant. I need damage control strategy. My wife just filed for divorce with abuse allegations. I need this spun so I come out as the victim. Stable Korean man betrayed by unstable foreign wife. By the time he was done, Ji-hoon had assembled a complete strategy for destroying Camille. She thought she could leave him, thought she could accuse him of abuse and take half his money. She had no idea who she was dealing with. He had money, connections, power, and most importantly, he had control over her visa, her entire legal right to exist in this country. He'd crush her systematically and completely. And when he was done, she'd be deported back to LA with nothing but the clothes on her back and the memory of thinking she could ever leave him. Ji-hoon looked at the divorce papers spread across his desk. A cold smile spread across his face. Game on, Camille. Game on. Camille had barely slept after sneaking back to Minji's apartment in the middle of the night. She'd left then before Ji-hoon woke up, unable to be in that apartment for one more second. Now, she sat in Minji's guest room, staring at her phone. She'd turned it on just long enough to see the messages from Attorney Min confirming the divorce papers had been served. Ji-hoon knew now. The papers had been delivered an hour ago, which meant he was probably raging, planning his counterattack, sharpening every weapon he had. Camille should have felt afraid. Instead, she felt oddly calm. The worst had happened. The papers were served. There was no going back now. What are you going to do today? Minji asked from the doorway, holding 2 cups of ginger tea. I need to go to the hospital. Camille took the tea gratefully. Get another confirmation. More detailed testing about the pregnancy. Do you want me to come with you? No, I'll be fine. It's just routine tests. Are you going to tell Jae-sung today? Camille's hand moved to her stomach. I don't know. Maybe. I need to figure out what to say first. After Minji left for work, Camille got dressed and took a taxi to Seoul Memorial Hospital. Different hospital from the first test. She wanted a second opinion. Wanted more precise information about conception timing. Wanted to gather as much data as possible before she told anyone about the pregnancy. The OB/GYN wing was on the 4th floor. She rode the elevator up, checked in at reception, filled out forms. Mrs. Park? A nurse called her name. This way, please. More tests, more blood drawn, more questions. Based on your hormone levels, I'd estimate you're approximately 7 weeks pregnant, the doctor said, reviewing her chart. We can schedule an ultrasound for next week. You should be able to see the heartbeat by then. Can you narrow down the conception date any more precisely? The doctor looked up. Conception likely occurred 7 weeks ago, plus or minus 3 to 4 days. Is there a reason you need more precision? Just trying to plan, Camille lied. After the appointment, she was given yet another folder of information, another prescription for vitamins, another schedule of appointments. She left the doctor's office and walked slowly down the corridor, processing. 7 weeks, plus or minus a few days. Still not precise enough to know for certain. She'd need that paternity test. At 9 weeks, the doctor had said. Just 2 more weeks of uncertainty. Camille was so lost in thought that she didn't see the woman until it was too late. She turned a corner at the exact same moment someone else turned from the opposite direction. They collided hard, shoulder to shoulder, foreheads cracking together with enough force to make stars explode behind Camille's eyes. Ow! She stumbled backward, hand flying to her forehead where sharp pain bloomed. They both looked up at the same moment and froze. Camille found herself staring at a young Korean woman, mid-20s, delicate features, large dark eyes, porcelain skin. Beautiful in that classic way, like she'd stepped out of a K-drama. Long, straight black hair, small frame, rose-colored blouse and jeans. A face she felt she had seen somewhere. But something about the way this woman was looking at her, like she knew she should know Camille but couldn't place her, made Camille's stomach twist. They stood there in the hospital hallway, both still holding their heads, both staring at each other. Wait, stop, rewind. Did that just happen? Camille and Yuna just bumped into each other. In a hospital, in the OBGYN wing, both holding their heads, both staring at each other. Prediction time. Do you think Yuna is pregnant too? What is she also doing there? Will they figure out who each other is during this confrontation? What happens when Ji-hoon finds out Camille filed for divorce? Who do you think is the father of Camille's baby? Drop a fire emoji if you think. This collision is about to expose everything. Drop a broken heart if you think both women are pregnant by the same man, or if you think Yuna is pregnant as well. Drop a warning emoji if you think Ji-hoon is about to find out about Jae-sung. Or are you just here for the absolute chaos? Drop your wildest predictions below. Where are you watching from? Comment your country plus your theory about what happens next. Team Jae-sung or Team Fresh Start Alone? Let me know. If you're not subscribed, subscribe now and turn on those notifications bell, because when this powder keg explodes, you do not want to miss it. Thank you for being here, for riding with Camille through every impossible choice, for supporting these stories, for being the sole Afro Stories fam. Your comments, your theories, your support, it means everything. Part 5 is coming soon, and I promise you, nobody is ready for what's about to happen. See you in the next one. Stay blessed.